Welcome to Twisted, an open-world storm-chasing game with tons of possibilities and a lot to work towards. There's a lot to do in Twisted, and a lot of ways things can get super confusing. That's where I come in. This video is here to clear up and help you through every rough area in Twisted. It's a pretty lengthy journey, so let's get started. Upon joining, you'll see that Twisted has a lobby system with a lot of options. On the very left of the menu, you'll see a play button, which just puts you in the server that you have the best connection to. On the larger part of the menu, you will see a list of servers, and it will tell you how many players are in each server, what the 3-day outlook is, which I'll talk more on soon, how long the server's been up, and the server code. Speaking of server codes, towards the bottom left you'll see a place to enter them. This is kind of useless for public servers, but very helpful when wanting to join in on VIP servers from either your friends or the Twisted official Discord server, which is linked underneath the game's homepage on the Roblox website. For now, it's a good idea to just stick to whatever server you have the best connection to though. Once you click play and load in, you'll be prompted with yet another menu that shows you the map. For a lot of players, this can be really confusing. Most towns on the map have a button on them you can press, which you can then zoom in on to choose a more precise spawn location within the town. The best place to spawn in any server is going to be Prairie Lake, since it is the town closest to the center of the map, and it will be easy to travel to any storm no matter the storm motion. Speaking of storm motion, it's part of the next step, which is looking at the thermodynamics. At the top of your screen, there'll be a row of buttons. To open the thermodynamics panel, you want to press the button with the sun icon. At first, I understand how this menu can look very overwhelming. Fortunately for you, however, there's a very simple and easy way to understand what is going on here. At the top left, you'll see a 3-day outlook. The potential categories here are thunderstorm, marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and high. Obviously, there's a lot of variation in these categories, but all you really need to know this far is that higher equals better. Starting out, I'd recommend playing enhanced to moderate risks. To the right of the 3-day outlook, you'll see the composites. There are 2 composites in the game, STP, which stands for Significant Tornado Parameter, and VTP, which stands for Violent Tornado Parameter. Once again, this is pretty simple to understand. Since the higher number you have, the larger chance you have at seeing something cool. Starting out, I would look for servers with an STP value of at least 5 and a VTP value of at least 1. Next, in the bottom left corner, you will see what seems like some random numbers, but it's actually the storm motion. On the bottom, you'll see a number in miles per hour, which is the speed at which the storms and tornadoes will be moving at that day. Above it, there will be a number in degrees, which is the direction the storms will move, for the most part. That number is also displayed in the arrow next to it. For now, that's about as simple as I can put the thermodynamics menu. I'll go more in depth with it later, but you're also going to need to know what to purchase to get on your feet. So let's move on for now. There are a lot of things to buy in Twisted, but not a lot of money to start with. So that's why you can go up into the settings menu in the top right corner of the screen and enter code START for some quick and easy cash. Now that you have this, there are 2 things you need to immediately focus on. First, you need to open the vehicles menu and go buy the Scout, which is a variant of the Nevera territory. Once you've done that, go ahead and spawn it in. Take a drive around for a minute or so and get used to the controls, which I'll cover more later. Now that you have a basic feel for the car, it's time to buy some probes. In order to do this, you need to go back into the vehicles menu and go to the warehouse tab. Once you're there, go over to the equipment section. Now you'll see a list of probes, which all have different stats. To start out, I'd recommend using either Dorothy or Toto. They're somewhat expensive to buy, and you don't need to immediately fill the Scout's inventory of all 4 probes, but they will help you make back money very swiftly. After you get a little more money and experience on your belt, then I'd switch to using the TwistX Tower probes. For now, that's all you're required to buy, but I'd recommend stopping by a gas station and getting a couple bags of chips and some sodas so you can heal up in case you get damaged later on. But for now, let's move back to understanding your vehicle as I previously mentioned. The vehicles in Twisted are overall pretty simple, but it's still a good idea to know the fine details of what you own. To start, every vehicle has the same basic controls. In the bottom right corner of the screen, you will see a gauge cluster which states your speed, fuel percentage, and what gear you're in. Now for what each button does. All the way at the bottom, you have a parking brake. Next to the speedometer, you'll see turn signal buttons. Now for the big line of buttons. From the left, we have the horn, cruise control, lock, vehicle flip/unstuck button, headlights, hazards, and who would have guessed the big button that says start on it is a start button. Towards the bottom left, you'll have another pull-out menu next to the minimap, which controls other vehicle functions that aren't shared with many other vehicles. For example, it could be a beacon light or a deployment system. Now on to understanding the stats of each vehicle. When you open the vehicles menu and click on a vehicle, the stats card will come up at the top right of the screen. This card has a lot of information on it, such as the vehicle's speed on paved roads and on dirt roads, the acceleration, fuel economy, and fuel capacity. Above all of these stats, you will see some other stats that are just as important as everything below, including whether the drivetrain is front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive, the fuel type of the vehicle, how many people can fit in the vehicle, and how many probes can fit in the vehicle. The warehouse vehicles will have a bit more information, such as deployment thresholds and deployment speeds. That just about sums it up for the basic understanding of each vehicle for now. If you would like more information about some of the best vehicles in the game, consider watching this video, which compares a lot of these vehicles head on. But for now, let's move on to understanding some navigation. Now, you already know that the best place to spawn and most central city on the map is Prior Lake, but outside of this, the map all looks kinda similar. North of Prior Lake is Hazleton, which is the largest city in the game with the most stuff to do, and most importantly, it has the National Weather Service office, including the KHCL radar. To the west of Prior, you have Hibbing, which is the second largest city in the game, with a decent amount of stuff to do and a smaller terminal radar site. To the southeast, there's the third largest town, Varoka. There's less to do around here, but there is a mechanic shop in town, and it's the closest shop to Prior Lake. Although there is a shop in Hazleton, which is an easier drive, you will save gas money by going to the one in Varoka. For the overall terrain of the map, the easiest terrain to chase on is the center, west, and northwest of the map. This overall has the best road network and the least amount of objects obstructing your view of the tornado. Some more intermediate areas of the map are the south, southwest, and north, which are overall similar to the previously mentioned areas. However, these areas face new issues such as small hills, smaller dirt roads, lakes, higher tree density, and a lack of radar coverage, which I'll talk more about later. And for the most difficult areas, there's the northeast and the east, which have large hills, a river with very few crossings, a giant lake, and high tree density. While it's possible to chase on every part of the map, it's not always as easy to get the hang of it in every place. In order to help you navigate around these difficult areas of the map, you can use radar, but it can get pretty complicated at times, so let's move on to it. First off, to open the radar, you press the button at the top of the screen with the satellite dish icon. Now that you have radar open, there's a lot to go over. In the bottom right hand corner, you will see a toggle menu where you can turn on and off things like the map background, storm icons, road sign icons, skywarn reports, and a lot of other things. However, I recommend that you just leave everything on. On the second tab of this menu, it shows a list of every player on the map, and when you click the pin next to a person's name, it zooms into their location on the map. The third tab on this menu has a list of the previous days in a server, and under each day, every tornado that happened is listed in detail. To the left of each tornado, there will be an empty gray box, and when you click it, its wind field will be displayed on the map. To the right of every tornado, there is an arrow, and when you click it, it pulls up another menu. This menu displays things like the amount of time the tornado was on the ground, the rating this tornado got on the EF scale, the estimated wind speeds of the tornado, how long the path is, how large the tornado was, how many people it injured, and how many people it killed. Pressing the fourth tab on this menu activates the measuring tool, and once you click it, you can press any two spots on the map to create a measured distance. On to the next menu, which selects the radar data. This is a fairly small menu, only featuring two buttons to choose the radar product, either reflectivity or velocity, which I'll speak more on later. For the next menu, we have the legend. It's pretty self-explanatory, since just about every map on the planet has some type of legend. The first page of the legend shows you the gradient attached to numbers that represents the radar product you have selected. Pages 2 and 3 of the legend show you individual icons and their meanings, such as the storm-related icons, and where some services on the map are, like gas stations and workshops. There are also multiple radar sites in the game, one in Hazleton and one in Hibbing. In order to switch between the two, you can click on the buttons in the locations of the corresponding radars. Now that these menus are dealt with, let's move back to what the radar products are for. Reflectivity radar measures the amount of rainfall in an area, and the deeper the color, the heavier the precipitation. Meanwhile, velocity is a bit more complicated. Velocity is measured by two opposite colors, red and green. The green scale is moving towards the radar, while the red is moving away. The more vibrant the color and the velocity, the stronger the motion is. In order to find a tornado on radar, you can use the TVS icons to help you point out a spot. If you don't want to use the TVS icons, however, you can look for a couplet, which signifies an area of rotation in the storm. This is visualized as red and green velocity moving close together. To practice, let's play a game. Let's start with an easy one. Can you find the rotation in this screenshot? There we go. Now let's try a harder one. See, it's not so hard, is it? If that isn't enough to help you find a tornado based off of radar, keep in mind that they are typically off the tail end of the storm. The National Weather Service is also constantly issuing tornado warnings which predict the direction of the storm too. The wider of the two skinny sides are going to point towards the direction the tornado is moving. You can also right-click the warning box to read the information with it. There are 4 types of tornado warnings. The red warning is a classic normal tornado warning. The orange polygon means that there is a confirmed tornado on the ground. A pink warning box, or a PDS warning, which stands for particularly dangerous situation, means that there's a strong tornado on the ground, and a black polygon with a pink outline means that there's a tornado emergency, which is when a PDS warned tornado is headed for a highly populated area. Alright, now that you know how to find a tornado on radar, how about we go ahead and try to get some probes inside of one. So, the overall idea of intercepting is very easy, but it has some small but difficult challenges. First off, we want to pay attention to where the tornado looks like it's going. If the tornado looks like it's at a standstill, then it's headed for you. However, if you see any side-to-side motion in the tornado, then you need to reposition for a better placement. Another thing you have to keep in mind is the size, significance, location, and consistency of the tornado. For example, a smaller, shiftier sidewinder, you're going to want to be much closer before putting a probe down, for the extra reassurance that your probe is going to get inside the tornado. For a larger, stronger tornado, you're going to want to place your probes a bit further out from the tornado, since it has a much higher chance of taking a direct hit. And for the location of the tornado, if there's lots of room in front of the tornado to get more probes down, then it's a good idea to periodically probe on one road at a time, where if there is not as much space, it's a good idea to get down multiple probes in one spot. Speaking of probes, if you want to get the most money possible, we should probably look into those, don't you think? Twisted has a large array of different types of probes, but honestly, we can render all of them useless except for 4 of them. The 4 probes you want to concern yourself with are the TwistX Tower Probe, the HITPR Turtle Camera Probe, Toto, and Dorothy. Toto, Dorothy, and the TwistX Tower Probe all have relatively the same return on investment, but the time it takes to do so varies. The Dorothy probe is going to have the most health, but the least dollars per second, while the TwistX Tower Probe is the opposite, and the Toto is a middle ground. That makes the Turtle Probe the odd one out here. Total Probe actually has a much higher return on investment than any other probe in the game. The main difference is that it takes so much longer to do so. The best way to use the turtle probes is reserving them for large violent tornadoes, so you get the most use out of them as fast as you can. Otherwise, my personal favorite is the TwistX Tower Probe. However, if you're low on money, Toto or Dorothy are great alternatives. But that reminds me, probes aren't the only way to read wind speeds. Let's take a look at vehicle customization, and more importantly, mesonettes. Twisted vehicle customization system is fairly simple, but it still has a lot of options. First off, in order to actually customize any of your vehicles, you need to locate a mechanic shop, which is symbolized by the wrench icon on the map. Once you pull up to the mechanic shop, if it's a Tomcat performance location, you can either pull into the front garages, or for larger vehicles, you can drive around back. At the Tiv2Guy Radar Technologies location, you can pull into any of the garage doors. Once you're inside, you can press whatever button the prompt tells you to open the garage. Now that you're in the garage, you'll see a couple of menus. One of them is the stats card we are already familiar with from the vehicles menu, which adjusts the stats to preview your changes. Then on the right side of the screen, there's the vehicle's modifications menu, featuring 3 areas of the vehicle that you can change. Let's start with the most basic one, maintenance. In the maintenance tab, your vehicle will have 4 different categories: body, wheels, suspension, and engine. The blue bar represents how full the health of each category is, and the color of the button represents the status. A red button means it is fully repaired, a green button means it's selected to be repaired, and a blue button means it's not selected. Like I said, this is the most simple menu here, and that's all there is to it. Now onto the body modifications menu. This menu is also fairly simple, with only 2 things going on here. On every dealership vehicle, you can change the color to any of these preset colors featured on the left, and if you have the custom color game pass, you can choose the RGB color or put in hex codes like 8beep6. And of course, at the bottom of this section, you can see a button to purchase and equip a mesonet. And for the final and most complicated menu, the suspension modifications. This menu is used to adjust mostly the wheels of the vehicle. For picking out your style, you can choose between different rims and tires for most vehicles. Above that menu, you can adjust the wheel offset, which makes your vehicle's handling better, the lift height, which makes your vehicle faster on dirt roads, and the shocks, which makes your vehicle ride smoother on dirt roads, and decreasing the amount of suspension damage you accumulate. Speaking of, let's go back to damage for a second. If it wasn't already obvious, certain things cause different types of damage. As I previously mentioned, suspension damage is caused by driving on rough surfaces such as dirt roads and grass. Wheel damage is caused by excessive hydroplaning and slamming on the parking brake. Body damage is caused by hail, and engine damage is caused by running the vehicle over time. Oh, and also, keep in mind that being thrown by a tornado causes all of the above, so be careful. In modern Twisted, vehicle progression is extremely simple. For the easiest path to success, we'll start with the Scout, since I already told you to buy that. The reason it's so good is because of its probe capacity being at 4, which is the most in the game, tied for the Vortex 2 probe truck and the 2017 Bullhorn Buffalo 3500. After you save up a decent bit of money, you'll want to move on to the Tornado attack. After that, you should start saving for the Tip 2. You can get other interceptors before this, but I'll warn you, it's only gonna slow you down. After this, you'll need a scanning vehicle. The best vehicle to save up for is by far the Raxbull. But if you don't want to grind for that long, there's no issue in settling for the Dow 3. After you have all of these vehicles, you have free reign to save up for whatever vehicles you want. The thermodynamics in Twisted seem very complicated, but in reality, there isn't a whole bunch to it. Let's ease into it with the values you're already familiar with from day-to-day life. Of course, we all know what temperature is. That one needs no explanation. Then dew point is the temperature at which the dew will settle on the ground. And then surface RH, which probably doesn't seem as familiar, but RH literally just stands for relative humidity. That one starts getting a little more complicated. 700 to 500 millibar RH is the relative humidity for lower pressure ranges in the upper atmosphere. These values all help control where and how the storm forms. Now, on to PWatt, which stands for precipitable water. Otherwise meaning how much it will rain. Otherwise meaning how much rain and how poor the visibility is. Typically for this value, higher is worse. Then there's SRH, which stands for storm relative helicity. Basically, this value represents the amount of rotation in the atmosphere, and you want to aim for as high as a value of this as you can get. Then there's lower level and upper level lapse rates, which is the change of temperature in the atmosphere, which controls things like lightning and the frequency of it. Next, we have CAPE, which stands for convective available potential energy, which measures the instability in the atmosphere, and 3 CAPE is the same thing for the upper levels of the atmosphere, which again, higher is better for both. Next up is this wonky thing, which is called a hodograph. The hodograph controls a lot of things, such as the path of a tornado and some of the values listed on the left. The hodograph can control a tornado's growth, size, direction, speed, amount of shifts, and more. Oh, and also, I want to get something straight right now. All of these thermodynamic values are put into a calculator which spits out the STP and VTP. The STP and VTP are there to help you forecast and do not control the outcome of a risk. This is one of the most common misconceptions about the thermodynamics, and I want it to be known that STP and VTP are not contributing factors to the thermos, but instead the thermos are contributing factors to the STP and VTP. Now, I'm going to give it to you straight, most of the game passes in Twisted are kinda useless. However, there are a select few that are vital to your performance. First off, I want to make sure that this is in your head. Do not buy currency straight up. It's not a very wise means of spending, and there are better places to put your Robux. Instead, put your Robux into the Infinite Fuel Game Pass and the 2x Money Game Pass. Those are the two game passes that will influence your financial gains the most. Both game passes are pretty self-explanatory on what they do, especially since there aren't any catches in either game pass. The 2x Money Game Pass does exactly that, double the amount of income you make from every source. And the Infinite Fuel Game Pass is also very self-explanatory, making it so you never have to refuel ever again. But more importantly, you never have to pay for fuel again. Some honorable mentions for the Game Pass include the NWS Game Pass, which allows you to rate homes that have been damaged by tornadoes and issue warnings in the NWS office, the Fire/EMS Game Pass, which allows you to heal damaged NPC characters in the tornado's path, as well as the Drone Game Pass, which allows you to get an elevated view without using the storm cameras, which are only accessible with the NWS Game Pass, and the Trucking Game Pass, which allows you to complete jobs around the map for a pretty high pay rate. Well, that's about it for this Twisted guide. I really do hope this is helpful to anyone watching this, and even if you've been in the Twisted community for a while, I hope you learned something new. With that being said, if this guide was helpful, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more storm chasing content, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.